Hi, I'm Jeff from New York. Please like and subscribe.
Young Billionaire, Episode 94, Spike's Revenge. In the backstage,
It's you again.
Jerry said angrily when he recognized Elaine.
First you ruined my favorite song, now you make my dog sick.
Elaine's stomach still hurt. She couldn't even open her eyes. She had no idea what had happened, and Jerry's words just confused her. Christine and Sophia also had no idea what was going on. They didn't know that Elsa had given the water to Elaine. At that moment, the ambulance arrived, flashing red and blue lights. It stopped outside the auditorium, and two paramedics lifted a stretcher out of the back.
We need to get Elaine to the hospital. We can sort this out later.
Christine said as she and Sophia went to help Elaine onto the stretcher.
Stop.
Jerry shouted.
Did I say you could leave?
They all froze. Jerry's gaze landed on Elsa.
Give the water to the doctor and get them to check if it contains poison.
Yes, sir.
Elsa picked up the bottle of mineral water and handed it to the paramedic. The paramedic knew who Jerry was, so he agreed straight away. He used the equipment in the ambulance to do a quick check on the contents of the bottle. While this was happening, Kara had asked the other paramedic to treat her beloved Spike. He immediately injected Spike with analgesics and anti-inflammatories to stabilize his condition. The first paramedic finished his tests and ran out of the ambulance. He said to Jerry, "Mr. Adler, the test has shown that there has been poison added to this water. Drinking this water would cause severe abdominal pain." Hearing this, the crowd was in an uproar. Jerry glared angrily at Elaine, who opened her eyes in shock. She looked at Elsa and only then did she realize what had happened. Elaine slowly raised her arm and pointed at Elsa, saying,
It's her, Mr. Adler. This bottle of water, she gave it to me.
Bullshit.
Elsa said in a fluster. She looked at Jerry, afraid that he would believe what Elaine said. She continued,
Mr. Adler, she's trying to frame me because she thinks that I reported her to Miss Diaz.
Elaine looked at Elsa furiously and said,
Nonsense. It was you.
Obviously, you drank it yourself to cover up the truth. Don't bother trying to frame me. If you admit the truth to Mr. Adler, I'm sure he'll understand and take pity on you.
Elsa panicked, but she wasn't afraid. Today she wanted Elaine to repay the debt that she felt she owed her, and with interest. Jerry looked coldly at Elaine.
You must hate me for criticizing your singing, right? So you've decided to take it out on my dog. You have to understand that I sponsored this competition. I can only have the best singers on stage. Go on, admit what you did.
Elaine looked at Jerry and shook her head. It wasn't like that. She had no bad feelings toward him. She now knew that Elsa had orchestrated everything.
You destroyed my favorite song and then poisoned my dog. Are you tired of living or something?
Jerry's tone became increasingly sinister as he continued.
Stupid girl, if anything happens to my dog, you'd better stay well away from me.
At that moment, Kara walked straight over to Elaine and without saying anything, she slapped her face. Neither Christine nor Sophia tried to stop her.
You bitch! How dare you poison my dog? Spike's life is worth 100 times yours. Who do you think you are?
She said fiercely to Elaine, then she calmly walked back to Jerry's side.
How's Spike's now?
Jerry asked Kara.
I asked the paramedic to give him painkillers. He's in less pain now than he was before.
As Kara was talking to Jerry, the paramedic walked over with Spike and said, Mr. Adler, your dog isn't in pain for the time being, but you need to find a professional veterinarian to have a look at him.
Thank you. We'll see the vet later.
Jerry bent down and stroked Spike's head. His gaze turned toward Elaine, and he whispered sinisterly to the dog.
Spike, do you know why you were in so much pain earlier? It was because of her. Do you want to take revenge?
Spike seemed to understand Jerry's words and bared his teeth at Elaine.
Mr. Adler, what are you doing?
Christine and Sophia were both terrified. Elaine also opened her eyes wide and looked at Spike, but Jerry ignored them. He patted Spike's head and unhooked the leash. Spike ran toward Elaine while growling and baring his teeth. Christine and Sophia were terrified and moved away from Elaine's side. Elaine forgot all about the pain in her abdomen. Looking at Spike charging toward her, she got up quickly and tried to run. With every step she took, pain shot through her stomach. She ran full steam into the artificial lake. but Spike rushed in after her. He reached her quickly, baring his teeth and trying to bite her in order to avoid the attack. Elaine punched the dog's head with all her might, but she was no match for Spike. A piece of her clothing was bitten off by the ferocious dog. While Elaine was being mauled by a crazed dog in Los Angeles, Jeff was getting drunk with his friends in New York. With a flushed face, he raised his glass and clinked it with Joe.
Drink, my friend, you've really found yourself a wonderful wife.
Elaine fell into the lake with a splash. She choked as she swallowed a mouthful of water and desperately tried to stand up. Spike bit her arm and she started bleeding. Meanwhile, Jeff clinked glasses with his friends. The liquor splashed out, and they all laughed loudly. Jeff felt happy. He couldn't remember feeling as content as he did that night. In the artificial lake, the girl and the dog were splashing maniacally. Spike had a lot of energy, but Elaine was already on the verge of exhaustion. Her clothes were torn, her body was bitten, and she was starting to lose a lot of blood. Spike was looking for an opportunity to bite her neck and finish her off. Christine and Sophia pleaded with Jerry to save Elaine, but it was useless. If Spike killed Elaine, Jerry would tell everyone that it was an accident. His reputation wouldn't be affected at all. At that moment, a strident voice came from behind the crowd.
Hey, isn't this meant to be a talent show? Why is there no one on the stage? And why are all of you standing out here?
Two female performers walked out with the young man. The girls were all elegantly dressed and stunningly attractive. Any one of them could be a supermodel. In contrast, the young man was wearing shades, a flower t-shirt, and surfer shorts, showing off his extremely hairy legs. He looked like he was wearing a pair of woolen pants. Trying to get on Jerry's good side, an audience member pointed to the approaching young man and said rudely,
Hey, who are you? How did you get here? Don't you know Mr. Adler's here?
The youth glanced at the young man and then told the girls beside him to wait a moment. He casually walked over to him and asked softly,
Are you talking to me?
The young man tried to act tough, but he was still a little nervous. He spluttered,
Yes, Mr. Adler's still here. Who do you think you are?
But before he could finish, the youth had already reached over and had hit him 10 times in the mouth. The poor young man's lips were swollen and bleeding. His handsome face was battered and bruised, and he was on the verge of tears.
Mr. Adler, he hit me.
He complained to Jerry in a while.
Shut up.
Not only did Jerry not help him, but he actually punched him as well. The poor man was now bleeding from his nose. He was in complete misery. If he had known what was going to happen, he would have never gotten involved. No one could understand what Jerry was doing. Why wasn't he kicking out this arrogant newcomer? To their surprise, Jerry walked over to him with a fawning smile and said,
Mr. Florento, when did you arrive in Los Angeles? Why didn't you get someone to notify me when you arrived? I would have arranged for someone to pick you up.
The audience was dumbfounded. They wondered who is this Mr. Florento that Jerry Adler is so afraid of. One man muttered to his friend,
Mr. Adler's such an important and powerful businessman, and yet he bowed to this lob.
This Mr. Florento must be even more important than Jerry Adler.
Agreed his friend. The first man looked at his phone and confirmed.
Yeah, he is. The internet says that this Mr. Florento is involved with half of the female celebrities in the entertainment industry. He's worth a fortune.
From Jerry's reaction to the youth, the onlookers had guessed his identity. The young man was Jeff's brother, Matthew. Since he had never been interested in the family business, no one recognized him. Although Matthew was a member of the Florento family, his part of the family was far less rich and powerful than Jeff's, and his wealth was far inferior. However, he was still one of the richest men in America. Jerry knew this and had to treat him with respect.
Stop trying to suck up to me. I'm here to watch a talent show.
Matthew said rudely to Jerry.
Why has it stopped? What's going on? And what's happening in the lake?
Jerry replied,
We were in the middle of a talent show, and this woman poisoned my dog. I'm letting my dog bite her. Then we'll see if she dares to do something like that again.
Jerry pointed at Elaine, who was still struggling in the water. Matthew hugged the two girls beside him and looked over at the artificial lake. Amidst the splashes, he could make out a dog crazily attacking a woman. It was impossible to see the woman's face. He nodded in approval and said,
I have an African lion at home. If anyone tried to poison my lion, I would let him eat him. These kinds of people deserve to die.
Just then, the dog in the water jumped toward the woman's neck, and Matthew got a clear view of her face. He was shocked. He recognized her as the same woman he had met on Emerald Island. It was his brother's girlfriend, Elaine.
Stop him. Stop, I know her. Stop your crazy dog now.
Matthew ran full pelt into the artificial lake.